The Forgotten Legacy. Deep in the heart of space, on a world untouched by time, a team of explorers stood at the entrance to a vast, hidden structure. The planet was barren, its surface cracked and broken. But what lay beneath was something that no one had expected. The sky above them was filled with swirling clouds, casting eerie shadows over the landscape. It was a place long forgotten, where no one had ventured in centuries. Yet today, this place would reveal secrets that could change everything. The team had come from the Galactic Exploration Coalition, a group of scientists and historians who had traveled the galaxy in search of the unknown. For years, they had studied the ancient myths of an extinct race known as humans. Legends spoke of their extraordinary power and advanced technology, but over time, these stories faded into myth. Humans were thought to be nothing more than a forgotten race. Stories passed down through time, no more than the stuff of legends. But this mission was different. The coordinates they had received were unlike any other. They were precise, pointing to a location that had never been explored before, deep in the remote sections of the galaxy. What they discovered here, no one had ever imagined. As the team descended into the depths of the ancient ruins, the air felt heavy, as if the walls themselves were watching them. There was an overwhelming sense of mystery surrounding the place, a feeling that something important lay hidden within. The walls, covered in alien script and strange symbols, spoke of a time long past. The team could hardly believe their eyes. How could such a place exist, yet be so forgotten? The first sign of something extraordinary appeared when Dr. Celine, the lead archaeologist, found a strange engraving on one of the walls. It was worn, its edges chipped and cracked, but the meaning was clear. It depicted a human-like figure standing tall, surrounded by glowing orbs and intricate technology. Below the figure was a symbol, a marking no one had ever seen before. It wasn't just a drawing, it was a map. "This can't be real," whispered Dr. Celine, her voice trembling. This is human. But how? The rest of the team gathered around her, staring at the image. For years, they had wondered if the humans, once thought to be a myth, could have truly existed. But this was more than just proof. It was a message. They continued to explore deeper into the ruins, finding more signs of humanity's past. Each discovery was more baffling than the last. Ancient weapons, technology far beyond anything the aliens had ever seen, and artifacts that defied explanation. As they ventured further, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. But what did it all mean? It wasn't long before they found something even more startling. A massive hidden chamber, unlike any they had encountered so far. Inside, a series of strange machines hummed softly, their purpose unclear. But at the center of the room was something that took their breath away. A large, intricately carved pedestal, upon which lay a glowing device. It seemed to pulse with an energy that made the air around them feel electric. Dr. Celine's heart raced as she approached the pedestal. This was the discovery of a lifetime. No, of many lifetimes. The human race had been forgotten for so long, erased from history by those who sought to control the galaxy. But here, in the heart of this lost world, the evidence was clear. Humans had once been far more than a myth. With trembling hands, she activated the device. A holographic projection burst to life in the center of the room. The projection flickered before solidifying into an image of a vast fleet of ships, unlike any the team had ever seen. The ships were enormous, their sleek forms glowing with energy. These were not just any ships. They were human ships, older than any civilization still alive in the galaxy. And then, a voice echoed in the chamber, a deep, resonant tone that seemed to vibrate through the very walls. It was a message from the past. "We are the humans," the voice began. "We have shaped the galaxy, and we will return to reclaim what was once ours." The team froze, shocked by the power of the message. They had never expected this. Humans were not just a lost race. They were an ancient, powerful civilization, one that had vanished without a trace. But now, the truth was clear. They had been erased from history, their legacy buried beneath the sands of time. Dr. Celine's mind raced as she tried to process the information. If humans had been so powerful, why had they disappeared? What had happened to them? And why had they left such a cryptic message behind? The forgotten history unfolds. As the team stood in awe before the glowing pedestal, the reality of their discovery began to settle in. This was no ordinary relic. It was a key to a past long forgotten, a past so powerful that it had been deliberately erased from the records of galactic history. The holographic projection had only just begun to reveal its secrets, but there was so much more to uncover. Dr. Celine reached out with trembling hands to touch the pedestal, and as her fingers brushed against its surface, the projection flickered again. This time, the image was different. The vast fleet of human ships appeared once more, but now, the projection zoomed in on a single ship, one far larger and more advanced than anything the team had ever seen. It was unlike anything the explorers had encountered, a ship that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly glow, its surface etched with strange symbols. "This ship, it's not like anything in the galaxy," muttered Commander Jace, the team's military officer. His voice was filled with awe and confusion. "It's beyond anything the Coalition or any other species could build." Dr. Celine nodded, her eyes wide. This is beyond anything we can comprehend. This technology, it's centuries ahead of our time." As the projection continued, the voice returned, this time with a warning. "We were the architects of the galaxy," the voice boomed, its deep resonance vibrating through the chamber. "But we were betrayed, forgotten, and erased. Our enemies hid the truth, and they sought to destroy everything we built. But we shall return." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their meaning. The team exchanged uneasy glances. Humanity had not just been a lost civilization. They had been a powerful force, a force capable of shaping the very fabric of the galaxy. And now, they were gone. But why had they disappeared? What had happened to them? The hologram shifted again, this time showing a vast network of planets. Planets that were once home to the human empire. Each planet was surrounded by enormous rings of energy, a sign of the technology humans had mastered. As the projection zoomed in on one planet, the voice spoke once more. "This is our homeworld," the voice explained. "But we were betrayed by those who feared our power. They took everything from us and left us to fade into myth. But now, the time is coming when we shall return, and the galaxy will know the truth." The image of the homeworld faded, replaced by a stark vision of destruction. A massive battle raged across the stars, ships clashing in a brutal conflict. The human ships were fighting against an overwhelming force, but their enemies were ruthless. The projection showed ships of many different species, each one more terrifying than the last. They came from every corner of the galaxy, united in their hatred for the humans and their desire to wipe them out. As the battle unfolded before them, the projection showed the final moments of the war, the last stand of humanity. The human fleet was battered and broken, but it fought on, refusing to surrender. And then, the image shifted once more, showing the final moments of the human civilization's fall. The voice spoke one last time, its tone filled with sorrow and determination. "We fought until the end, but we were betrayed. Our enemies thought they had won. They thought they had wiped us from existence, but they were wrong. We left a legacy that will one day return." The projection flickered and then vanished, leaving the room in an eerie silence. The team stood frozen, their minds racing. They had just witnessed the final moments of humanity's greatest war, the fall of a once mighty empire. But even in their defeat, there was hope. Humanity had left something behind, a legacy it would one day return. Dr. Celine's heart pounded in her chest as she turned to the others. "Do you realize what this means? Humanity wasn't just a myth. They were real, and they were powerful. This This is just the beginning. The team stood in silence, the weight of the revelation settling in. They had come here seeking answers, but now they face even more questions. What had happened to humanity? Why had they disappeared? And most importantly, what was the legacy they had left behind? The answers, they knew, lay deeper within the ruins. As the team pressed on, they would uncover more of humanity's past and the truth behind their disappearance. But the deeper they dug, the more dangerous their journey would become. For they were not the only ones searching for the truth. As they left the chamber and made their way deeper into the ruins, they felt a sense of urgency, an overwhelming feeling that something was waiting for them. Something ancient, something powerful, something that would change everything they knew about the galaxy. Secrets of the hidden legacy. The deeper they ventured into the ruins, the more surreal their journey became. Dr. Celine's mind raced with questions. The holographic projections had revealed only pieces of the puzzle, leaving so much unanswered. What was this legacy humanity had left behind? Why had it been hidden? Who, or what, had caused their fall? The group moved cautiously through a vast underground chamber that stretched beyond what their lights could reach. Massive stone walls lined the edges, covered in strange, glowing symbols. At the center of the chamber, a massive rectangular object stood, an imposing structure that seemed out of place amidst the ancient stonework. It was smooth, metallic, and shimmered with a faint blue light. The object felt alive in a way, pulsing with an energy they couldn't yet understand. "This is it," Dr. Celine whispered, more to herself than to her team. "This is where the true secret lies." Commander Jace stepped forward, his boots making a quiet echo on the stone floor. "What is it?" "A vault. A ship." "I'm not sure," Celine replied, her voice filled with awe. "But if the holograms were right, this is where humanity's legacy was hidden." The rest of the team gathered around the structure, carefully examining it. The markings on its surface were unlike anything they had encountered. The symbols seemed to shift slightly, almost as if they were alive, adapting to their movements. They looked like a combination of both ancient script and advanced technological patterns, blending the old with the new. "I've never seen anything like this," murmured Kian, the team's tech specialist. "These markings, they're not just decorative. They're instructions." Dr. Celine's eyes narrowed as she focused on the symbols. Instructions for what? Without warning, the surface of the structure began to shift. The smooth metal seemed to melt away in places, revealing a series of interconnected gears and mechanisms underneath. The air in the chamber grew thick with anticipation. Celine took a cautious step forward, reaching out to touch the surface. As her fingers brushed against the cool metal, the structure hummed to life, its lights flickering in response. A soft, metallic hiss echoed through the chamber, and the object began to split open, revealing a narrow passage leading down into the depths. "We've triggered something," said Kian, his voice tense. "Is this what they meant by the legacy?" "It's a doorway," Dr. Celine replied. "A doorway to whatever humanity left behind." Commander Jace, ever the skeptic, narrowed his eyes. "And you think it's safe to go in?" "We don't have a choice," Celine said firmly. "If humanity left this here, it's part of the story. We have to uncover the truth." With that, she led the way, stepping cautiously into the passage. The others followed, their lights illuminating the narrow, winding tunnel as it descended deeper into the earth. The air grew colder as they went, and the further they traveled, the more the walls seemed to close in on them. The claustrophobic atmosphere heightened the tension in the group, but the pull of discovery was stronger than any fear they felt. As they reached the bottom of the passage, they found themselves in another vast chamber, one unlike any they had seen before. This room was massive, its ceiling far above them, hidden in shadows. In the center of the room stood a colossal stone platform, covered in intricate designs. Atop the platform lay what appeared to be a figure, frozen in time, encased in a crystalline substance. This looks like a tomb," Ken whispered, his voice filled with awe and a touch of fear. "No," Dr. Celine corrected him, her voice shaking with the gravity of the discovery. "This is not a tomb. This is a person." The figure, despite the crystalline shell encasing it, was unmistakably humanoid. Its form was elongated, its features sharp and refined. The team gathered around, eyes wide in shock. The figure seemed to glow with an ethereal light, almost as if it were alive, suspended in a deep slumber. This is someone from humanity," Dr. Celine said, her breath catching in her throat. "A member of the ancient human race. This must be the legacy they left behind." The team stood in stunned silence, their minds racing. They had uncovered something truly extraordinary. The truth was out there, buried in the deepest corners of the galaxy, and they were the ones who had found it. But the question that haunted them now was not just who this figure was, but why it had been preserved in such a way. Why had humanity gone to such great lengths to protect this individual? And what did this person's existence mean for the future of the galaxy? Suddenly, the figure's crystalline casing began to crack. A low hum echoed through the chamber, and the lights that had dimmed flickered to life. The team stepped back, uncertain of what was happening. It's waking up," Kian muttered, his eyes wide with disbelief. Dr. Celine's heart raced. This was it, the moment they had been waiting for, the moment that could change everything. The chamber grew eerily silent, save for the soft crackling of the crystal. The figure within began to stir. Whatever was about to happen, it was clear that the galaxy was on the brink of learning the most important truth about humanity's forgotten past. And that truth could alter the very course of history. The awakening. The crackling of the crystal continued, filling the chamber with an unsettling, almost otherworldly sound. The team stood frozen, their breath caught in their throats, unsure of what to do next. The figure on the platform was no longer just a relic of the past, it was coming back to life. Dr. Celine's heart raced as she stepped forward, cautiously moving toward the awakening figure. The soft light emanating from its body seemed to pulse, gradually growing stronger. She could feel the energy in the air, like a magnet pulling her toward it. The others hesitated, exchanging nervous glances, but they too felt the pull, drawn to the mystery before them. "Is it human?" Kian whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of the cracking crystal. Celine nodded, but her mind was clouded with questions. She had no answers. Everything she had ever believed about humanity's past was being thrown into doubt. What kind of power had this person possessed? What had they been doing, hidden away in this chamber for centuries, perhaps even millennia? With one final crack, the crystal completely shattered, and the figure was revealed. It was humanoid in shape, but its features were unlike anything they had ever seen. The figure's skin was pale, almost translucent, and its eyes, when they slowly opened, glowed with a strange, unearthly light. The team gasped in unison, stepping back as the figure slowly sat up, its movements slow and deliberate, like it was trying to shake off the effects of a long, deep slumber. The figure's gaze swept across the room, finally settling on Dr. Celine. Its expression was one of confusion, mixed with a touch of sadness. It seemed to recognize something within her, a deep connection, perhaps even an unspoken understanding. "Who are you?" The voice that escaped the figure's lips was raspy, as if it hadn't spoken in centuries. It carried an air of authority, yet there was a haunting echo in its tone. Celine took a step forward, her voice trembling but steady. "We are humans. We came to find out the truth. We found you. We found your legacy." The figure's eyes seemed to soften as it slowly stood. It moved with an elegance and grace that was both unsettling and beautiful. The light around it dimmed slightly, but its presence was overwhelming. Every movement, every breath, seemed charged with purpose. And then, as the figure took a step toward them, the ground beneath them trembled, a subtle, yet undeniable force that seemed to resonate from the figure itself. "I am not a legend," the figure said, its voice now stronger, more commanding. "I am the last of an ancient line. I am a descendant of the true humans, the first of us who came from the stars." The team was stunned. What did this mean? They had believed humanity was just a myth, an ancient race lost to time. But now, standing before them, was a living being that contradicted everything they had learned. What are you?" Kian stammered. "Where did you come from? How are you still alive?" The figure looked down at him, its glowing eyes full of sadness. We were exiled. The ones who came before us feared us, our power, our knowledge. They wiped us from history. They buried our truths, erased our existence, and left us to die. But we survived. Dr. Celine's heart pounded in her chest. This being was the key. The answers they sought lay with this individual, but what would they uncover? The galaxy had always considered humanity a myth, a forgotten race with no legacy. But this figure, this being, was living proof that humanity's past was far more complex and powerful than anyone could have imagined. "Why were you hidden?" Dr. Celine asked, her voice barely a whisper. She needed to know. She had to know. The figure's expression grew even darker. "We were the ones who created the first galactic empire. We forged the stars. But our creations, our power, became too much for the others to handle. They feared us. They cast us away, hiding our history. The truth was buried, scattered across the universe, for no one to find. And now," Dr. Celine pressed, "why are you awake now? What's happening?" The figure's gaze seemed distant, as if seeing something beyond them, something that had yet to come. "The time has come. The galaxy will remember us. The ones who feared us. Their reign is coming to an end. We will rise again." A chill ran down Celine's spine. The weight of the figure's words hung heavily in the air. The fate of the galaxy, perhaps even the entire universe, rested on what happened next. Could humanity truly rise again, after all this time? And what role would they, the modern humans, play in this rebirth? As the figure took a step forward, the chamber seemed to pulse with energy. The walls reverberated, the very air charged with power. And then, with a voice that carried across time and space, the figure spoke one final command: "Gather the legacy of humanity. The galaxy must know the truth." Dr. Celine's eyes widened. The weight of the responsibility was enormous. They weren't just uncovering history. They were about to change everything. And as the figure slowly began to walk toward the chamber's exit, the team followed. The world, no, the galaxy, had just been turned upside down. The truth had been revealed. And now, it was time for humanity to claim its place in the stars once again. The call to action. The team walked in stunned silence as the figure led them deeper into the ancient structure, their footsteps echoing in the vast halls. The walls around them were adorned with symbols that seemed to shimmer with a strange ethereal glow. It was as if the very walls were alive, pulsing with the ancient power that had once belonged to humanity. Dr. Celine couldn't tear her eyes away from the figure in front of them. Every word it spoke felt like a piece of history being handed to them, a history they hadn't known existed. This was no longer just an archaeological discovery. It was something much, much larger, a moment in time that could change the fate of the galaxy forever. "Where are we going?" Kian finally asked, breaking the silence. The figure glanced back at them, its expression unreadable. "To the heart of the legacy," it said, its voice deep and resonant. "There you will find what remains of humanity's true power. And there you will make your choice." "What choice?" Dr. Celine asked, her curiosity piqued. The figure turned its gaze toward her, and for the first time, it smiled. But there was no warmth in the smile, only the weight of centuries of knowledge. The choice to either awaken the power within you or leave it to be buried once again. The words sent a ripple of unease through the group. Could they truly awaken something that had been hidden for so long? Were they ready for the consequences of unleashing such power? The journey through the structure felt like it was taking forever, each corridor leading them deeper into the heart of the mystery. The air grew heavier with each step, charged with an energy that seemed to hum in Celine's bones. It wasn't just the past they were walking through. It was the future, one that was slowly coming into focus. Finally, they reached a large chamber, its walls covered in intricate carvings that depicted the rise and fall of civilizations, the forging of galaxies, and the birth of powerful beings. At the center of the chamber stood an enormous, glowing crystal, its surface covered in shifting symbols that seemed to move with a life of their own. "This is the heart," the figure said, stopping in front of the crystal. "This is the source of our power, the heart of humanity's legacy." Dr. Celine stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. This was it, the moment they had all been waiting for. The truth, the power. Everything they had discovered had led to this point. "How do we awaken it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The figure placed its hand on the crystal, and immediately the symbols began to glow brighter, their movements more frantic, as if the crystal itself was waking up after a long slumber. "The key to awakening it lies in you," the figure said, turning to face the team. "The bloodline. The ancient humans have passed their power down through generations. You are the inheritors of that power." Celine's eyes widened. She had thought they were simply exploring history, but now she realized that they weren't just uncovering the past. They were being called to play a part in it. We're the key?" Kian asked, incredulous. "Yes," the figure replied. "The true humans, your ancestors, left behind a gift, one that has been hidden for eons. But now it is time for it to be used once more." A wave of energy surged through the chamber as the crystal pulsed with power. The room seemed to vibrate with the force of it, and Celine could feel the power rushing through her, a strange sensation that made her feel both alive and terrified at the same time. "You must choose," the figure said, its voice growing more urgent. "The legacy of humanity can either be a tool for salvation or destruction. If you awaken its full power, you will change the course of the galaxy. You will take your place as the rulers of the stars, as you were meant to be. But beware, the power is dangerous. It can corrupt. It can consume." Celine felt her mind swirl with the enormity of the decision. Could they truly control such power, or would it destroy them, as it had destroyed those who had come before? The weight of the responsibility was immense. "We can't do this alone," Celine said, looking at her team. "We need to understand this power. We need to know what we're dealing with before we make any decisions." The figure nodded solemnly. "That is why I have brought you here. Together, you must learn the truth. Together, you must decide whether humanity's legacy will rise again." The chamber fell silent as the team stood before the glowing crystal. The decision before them felt impossible, yet they knew there was no turning back. The truth was out there, and it was in their hands now. As the figure stepped back, the crystal continued to pulse, its light growing ever stronger. The choice was theirs, whether to awaken the ancient power of humanity and claim their place in the galaxy, or to leave it buried, forever lost to time. The stakes had never been higher. The burden of power. The air in the chamber grew thick with tension as Celine stood frozen, staring at the pulsating crystal before her. Her mind raced, torn between the allure of the power it promised and the weight of the responsibility it carried. Could they truly control something so immense? Could they, mere explorers, bear the burden of humanity's ancient legacy? Kahan's voice broke the silence, shaky and uncertain. "What if we awaken something we can't control? What if it consumes us, like the legends say?" Dr. Celine looked at him, her heart heavy. She had wondered the same thing. The legends spoke of humanity's power, a gift that had once been used to forge empires, to shape galaxies. But those same legends also warned of the danger that came with it, how the power had consumed those who sought to wield it. turning them into tyrants, destroying everything in their wake. But what if humanity's true legacy wasn't about destruction? What if it was a power meant to heal, to restore the balance that had been lost? She stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the crystal. "We have to understand it first," she said, more to herself than to her team. "We can't make a decision until we know what we're dealing with." The figure, who had been standing silently beside them, nodded. "You are wise. To awaken the power, you must first unlock the knowledge buried within the heart. Only then can you decide its fate." With those words, the figure raised its hand, and the crystal began to glow even brighter. The symbols on its surface shifted, forming intricate patterns that seemed to tell a story that had been hidden for eons. Slowly, the patterns began to take shape, and the figure spoke, its voice now echoing with a deep resonance. "This is the history of humanity's true power. The legacy you've inherited was once the key to the galaxy's balance, a force capable of creating harmony or wreaking havoc, depending on how it was wielded." Dr. Celine's mind whirled as the symbols revealed scenes of ancient battles, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the untold power of humanity's once glorious empire. The images were vivid, almost alive, showing the grandeur of humanity's reign and the tragic mistakes that had led to its fall. "They were once rulers," the figure continued, "but they grew too powerful, too consumed by their own abilities. In time, their desire to control the universe led to their undoing, and so they hid themselves away, leaving only a fragment of their power behind." As the story unfolded, Celine began to understand the true depth of the power they were about to unleash. It was not just a weapon. It was the essence of humanity's spirit, their creativity, their ambition. But it was also their greatest flaw, their hunger for control, their tendency to destroy what they could not dominate. Kian shook his head, clearly torn. "We can't be like them. We can't repeat their mistakes." Celine met his gaze, her eyes filled with determination. "We won't. But we need to be sure. If we're going to awaken this power, we need to understand its full potential, both the good and the bad." The figure nodded solemnly. "The choice you face is not easy. But know this, the power will never be fully understood by one individual alone. It must be wielded by many, working in unison. Only then can its true potential be unlocked. But be warned, those who try to control it alone will fall prey to its corruption." The figure's words hung heavy in the air, the weight of their meaning sinking into Celine's chest. They couldn't afford to make the same mistakes as those who had come before them. The power was not just a tool to be used. It was a force to be respected, to be understood. "If we do this," Celine said, her voice firm, "we need to work together. No one person can have control. We will decide as a team, as equals." Kian and the others nodded, their faces set with resolve. It was a choice that carried immense risk, but it was the only choice they had. They couldn't turn back now. The crystal pulsed once more, brighter than ever, as though it had heard their decision. The symbols shifted again, revealing a new set of images, visions of what could be. A galaxy restored to peace, a future where humanity's power was used for good, to heal the wounds of the past and bring balance to a fractured universe. But there was also darkness in those images, a shadow that loomed over the future, threatening to consume everything. "The path is unclear," the figure warned, its voice heavy. "The power you are about to awaken can bring salvation, but it can also bring destruction. Choose wisely." Dr. Celine felt the weight of those words settle over her like a shroud. This was no longer just an archaeological discovery. It was a pivotal moment in history, one that would determine the fate of the galaxy. And it was now in their hands. She turned to her team, her voice steady. "Let's do this, together." As the crystal's glow reached its peak, they all stepped forward, each of them feeling the surge of energy that came with their decision. The heart of humanity was awakening, and with it, the future of the galaxy. The awakening. The room trembled with an energy so intense it felt like the very fabric of reality was being stretched and reshaped. The crystal, now glowing with an otherworldly light, pulsed in rhythm with their heartbeats. The team stood on the precipice of history, watching as the ancient power of humanity, long dormant, began to stir. Dr. Celine's breath caught in her throat. The heart of humanity was alive. Around her, the others stood in stunned silence, their eyes wide as the air around them seemed to shift, growing thick with the power that hummed through the chamber. She could feel it in her bones, a resonance deep within her that whispered of untapped potential, of unimaginable power. But with it came the echo of something darker, a warning that danced on the edge of her mind. "Do you feel that?" Kian asked, his voice strained, almost fearful. "Yes," Celine whispered, her gaze locked on the glowing crystal. It's more than we thought. We've only touched the surface." As the crystal's light intensified, the symbols on its surface began to shift once again, revealing a new sequence, a map. It wasn't just any map. It was a blueprint for the universe, showing the interconnected web of galaxies, planets, and civilizations. It was as if humanity had once known the secret to controlling the very flow of space and time. The power was theirs to command, to reshape existence itself. Celine stepped forward, mesmerized by the intricate design, the paths laid out before her. Her heart beat faster as the realization hit. This power could change everything. It could bring peace or total destruction. "We're not just talking about restoring humanity's place in the universe," she said, her voice barely audible. "This is bigger. This is the key to all of it, the key to everything." Suddenly, a deep rumbling sound echoed through the chamber, pulling Celine and the others back from the brink of their reverie. The walls seemed to shimmer and shake, and for a moment, she thought the very ground beneath them was going to crack open. The figure that had guided them, the being who had warned them of the dangers of this power, now stepped forward, its face grave. "You must act now. The crystal has awakened, and with it, the forces that seek to control it. The balance is fragile. You must make your decision." Can's eyes widened with panic. "What forces? Who else knows about this?" "There are others," the figure replied softly. "Those who would stop at nothing to possess this power for themselves. Those who seek to control the galaxy with an iron fist. They are coming." The realization hit like a shockwave. The team wasn't just dealing with an ancient relic of humanity's past. They had just unlocked something that others in the galaxy would kill to control. They had unleashed the very force that could shape the future of every civilization. "We need to get back to the ship," Celine said, her voice suddenly firm. "We need to protect this. We can't let anyone else get their hands on it." Without another word, she turned to the rest of the team. They didn't need to ask any questions. The urgency in Celine's voice was enough to spur them into action. As they gathered their equipment and prepared to leave the chamber, the figure spoke again, its voice echoing with an ancient warning. "The choice is not yet made. Remember, the power you have awakened can save or destroy. It will be in your hands to decide. Do not let greed or fear guide your path." As they made their way back to the exit, the chamber began to collapse around them. The walls cracked, the ceiling groaned, and the once steady pulse of the crystal began to grow erratic, as if it sensed the danger that was approaching. Time was running out. Celine's mind raced as she sprinted through the crumbling corridors. She had no idea who these mysterious enemies were, but she knew one thing for certain. They were coming, and they would stop at nothing to seize control of the power humanity had once wielded. The team emerged into the cold, vast landscape of the planet's surface. Their ship, a small but sturdy craft, awaited them. As they climbed aboard, the rumbling continued, and Celine couldn't shake the feeling that the very ground they had just left behind was going to swallow them whole. "Where do we go now?" Kian asked, his voice strained from the chaos. "We need to find allies," Celine said, staring out at the endless expanse. "We can't face this alone." But we also need to understand the power we've unlocked. We need to learn how to control it before someone else does. As the ship lifted off, Celine couldn't shake the feeling that their journey had only just begun. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity's true legacy would either save it or destroy it.